Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Violet.
And I'm Ruby.
And today we're taking a look at Rolling Heights from John D. Clare. Now John D. Clare is he's designed some of my favorite games. I love Space Base. I love Ready, Set, Bet. He has games where he has an interesting idea and does fun things. In this game, the idea is you are rolling meeples, which is not the first time it's been done. And then you're building buildings. Well, that's definitely not the first time that's been done. But this is a different kind of combo. Have you ever sat around and said, I wish I could roll the meeples?
I've never actually rolled meeples before, I don't think.
It's only been, I think, in one or two other games. Okay, but that's how this game works. Let me show you more. We're going to start with the main mechanisms of the game, which is rolling meeples. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to have two of these gray meeples and two brown ones, but you have the opportunity to add a plethora of different color meeples. Now, on your turn, the most you can roll is 10. So let's pretend I got a couple more meeples here. And so on your turn, you're going to roll the meeples into here. And what you're doing is you're looking for meeples that are on their side or standing. And that's going to matter if they're on their head. That also counts as being on their side. Here's one that's standing, and I pull one out. So 4 out of my 8 here were on their side or standing. So I pull them out. Now, if you have more than half of the meeples in here still laying down, then you get to re-roll. So for example, if you roll and everyone's laying down, well, that's terrible, but you get to roll again. Here though, it is exactly half-wes. So I need to stop, but I can re-roll, but I'm taking a chance when I re-roll. So I can re-roll these, and one of them is standing up. Yay. And I could re-roll again, but again, that's taking a chance. I re-roll again. Oh my, I got both. 2 more. I roll again. That was super luck. I got them all. Now you can do that. But if after a re-roll you look in here and everyone is exhausted, they're all laying down, then you'll lose half of the people, your choice, from the standing up ones over here. So that's the main mechanism here. You're going to be rolling until you stop, and then you're going to have different meeples, some on their sides and some standing up. Standing up is better. It's usually going to give you 2 of something, and on their side is okay. This is the scoreboard and also tells you what the different meeples do. So the brown and gray ones, which you start with, the carpenter and construction worker, are going to give you blocks of those colors. The architect and riveter will give you blocks too. They're more difficult blocks to get. The executive, this pink one here, gives you sort of a money and currency to spend. The politician, the yellow one, is going to give you points. The purple ones, which you will have rarely, not close to the end of the game, will score you special things based on the abilities. The green ones let you use other meeples, and the pink ones can let you re-roll. There's a little bit more to the pink and green, but you'll play the game and find that out. At the beginning of the game, you're going to be building a board with these different boards that you have here, and players are going to be buying tiles from next to the board. When you buy tiles, you're going to have to spend cubes or that currency that the one color gives you. But when you get these tiles, you're going to place them in different spots on the board. Sometimes if the board, you'll see this one here, this tile is a factory. If I place it in this spot here, I'm going to score 2 points. So that's a good place to put a factory. But you're going to need to put them next to each other. If you don't, you need to start spending cubes to kind of put them away from each other. And players are going to be putting these down, and there's benefits on that, but that benefit doesn't happen until you finish the tile. Now, when you put a tile out, you're going to put a piece of your color on it to show that it's yours. And so let's say I'm the purple player. I would just put this token here to show that it's mine. But once I start getting blocks, I can put a 1 block here, and then I can put 2 more here. Doesn't matter what order I do that in. Then I'll top one of those to show that it's completed. When it's completed, I'll get the points on it. So this is 2 points and whatever reward. So this one is going to give me either a white or a yellow meeple. There can be some really big ones that are built. Like you can see this one here. The Gambrel Museum needs 2 of these clear ones of the glass. And you're going to be building these as the game goes by. And it also needs 2 of the blues. And these are 6 stacked height each. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about how these go together. You'll see that the pieces just kind of sit on each other. And AEG told me that's because if you had to push them on, you'd knock stuff over all the time. That being said, we knock stuff over all the time, especially on these bigger ones here. But I think I can slide this one in here carefully. There you go. And then I can top one of these to show that it's done. That one's 20 points. You're not going to get many of these done because that's a lot of blocks that you need. So each round of the game, everybody is going to start by rolling their meeples and their thing. And then you'll take turns in turn order, and you'll be using your meeples to collect stuff. You're going to buy tiles next to the board. There are these tracks, and it will show you the cost of the different tiles. So the farther up the track it is, it might cost more cubes. And there's even on the board itself, there's some really good spots that might give more points that will cost additional cubes to place pieces on those. So you can put tiles out, you can put blocks on the tiles to finish them, and you're going to keep going till you run out of one of these piles of cubes. You'll notice there's a ton of cubes in here. There's even these orange ones here. These are here just because when you run out of a color, that triggers the end of the game, but you'll still finish up the turn, and you can use orange to replace, let's say, blue if you ran out of blue. There are different kinds of tiles that you can buy. There's like level 1 and level 2. That way there's always the cheap small ones that give fewer points, but they're good to build in the beginning to give you more meeples to add to your pile of meeples. And then there are ones that are worth more points. There's also going to be some things that you'll do. There are these targets that players will draw at the beginning of the game, and they'll give you extra points at the end of the game. So for example, this one gives me 1 point for every completed building that's adjacent to water. And there's going to be some advertisements next to the board, 3 of them randomly drawn, and this gives 2 points for each adjacent completed of these 3 types of buildings. These will apply to all the players. So when the game end is triggered, you'll score for all these things, plus the points that players have scored throughout the course of the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner. All right, so let's talk about different parts of the game. Let's talk about the rolling of the meeples first. What did you think of that?
I found it interesting, although it was very annoying trying to get over half of them standing up somewhat. Just kept doing it over and over again because they kept landing flat. It was very annoying.
Well, you're a bad roller.
Not my fault.
I really liked it. I mean, it was a lot easier than I thought it would be to land it on its side. And since, well, you have to wait till half of them to get it, it's really not that hard to get.
What about the push your luck part of it?
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, although I failed several times.
You did it several times?
Well, like a few, I guess.
Yeah, and and then once you're done with them, was it easy to remember what they each did?
Depends.
Well, we never, half of them I didn't get to use that often. Like the purple one, I got it, then the game ended.
Yeah, that is true. Those purple buildings, the ones that give you purple meeples, require so many resources. You could spend half the game almost working on one of those buildings. Or you could spend half the game working on one of those buildings and never finish it, causing you to come in a very, very last place. What? Why? That's not funny. I feel like that's a serious thing.
You could say by almost 40 points.
You know what? That's not the point about how many points it was. I'm just saying that's a possibility. So what do you think about using them to get blocks and putting those on the tiles?
I thought the building process was interesting. I just kind of wish they stuck more because they kept toppling over super easily.
Yeah.
Especially when it's tall and you're trying to reach your hand over the board and you might tip over one of the taller buildings, Ruby.
Okay, well this happens all the time in this game.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a pretty big deal because you're going to knock buildings over. Not only that, when you put the buildings on them, so let's say there's a 1, 2, a 3, and 2 3s. So it's a 1, 2, and 2 3s. Once you start putting pieces on, you have to remember how many go on each one. And on the side of the tile, there's tiny numbers that tell you, but they're tiny.
Yeah, so I constantly have to move the buildings off to check.
Yeah, and so that's one of the biggest problems with this game, I think, is usability. It's really easy to knock the buildings over, especially if you don't have super thin fingers. If you have fat fingers at all, they're falling over. And it's not easy to see the numbers on the tiles. It's not easy to see what each of the meeples do. I think it's weird. There's not a player aid that tells you what each one does. It's on the board in the middle. But you guys, how many times did you ask me what a pink meeple does?
Okay, first of all, it's just because when it's standing up and when it's on its side, it has 2 completely different uses.
I agree. I'm just saying that it would be nice to have that on a player aid, then you wouldn't have to ask me.
That's true.
The game itself, though, is pretty fun. You're rolling the meeples, you're putting out the pieces and you see the city get built. As you build the city and you sweep across, it looks cool, right?
Yes.
So what are your final thoughts?
Well, I think I probably liked it more than those two because, I don't know, I just really like a lot of the aspects, especially how after you get 10 meeples, you can choose which ones you get to play. That was cool.
Which means you stop using the wood and the gray ones. That's really what it means for the most part.
Really? Okay.
Well, you like rolling the yellow ones and just rolling points.
Yeah. But I don't know, I like the building system overall. 8.
8? Okay.
I enjoyed the game as well. The thing that kind of annoyed me though was like the differences between the basic buildings and the large buildings, because like you could just build a bunch of small buildings really quickly and probably gain more points than building one of the larger ones.
Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to play it a lot more to figure that out. The larger buildings can get you a lot of points, but you're right. You might be better off building some small buildings, getting yellow meeples, and just start rolling them and scoring points every turn.
Yeah, like
Especially
getting the special locations to gain you extra points.
Especially for how many of the large buildings required blue stuff.
So what's your rating?
I would give it a 7. I like the game.
Okay, here's the thing. I also like the game. I'm also giving it a 7, but I wanted to like it way more. The rolling the meeples is a fun concept. It works, and you collect the resources, and putting out buildings and seeing the city grow. That's all cool. There's just a bunch of little clunky things, knocking the buildings over, moving stuff around. You have to check both your scoring tile, the scoring tiles on the board, the symbols on the board. You're looking at all the tiles that come out on the side. It feels a little like it's not super smooth. Like the game could run a little smoother. Also, sometimes you're just sitting there waiting for someone else to take their turn. The downtime, I wish you could play simultaneously, but you can't. So when someone's sitting there going, should I build this building or that building? And I just build any building. But I don't want this to sound like it's a negative thing either. I like it. It could have been like a 9 for me if it had been a faster, smoother play. But I do like seeing the buildings and everything. It's just that those problems kept me from loving it.
Yeah.
So there you go. That is Rolling Heights. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Violet.
And I'm Ruby.
And I am the champion of this game.
No, you're
You got last place.
Shh.